Needed that. Not just for the belief and the validation of the project, but also the breathing room. And nobody wants to go into an 18-day international break stewing on a loss or a league position. But what should make people very, very happy, apart from ending a 5-game winless run in all competitions, is the manner of this victory. Start with being hard to score against. That's Villa's ethos. I'm sure it's Steven Gerrard's. And in that first half, Everton's XG was 0. So let's celebrate with a fine Christmas present scotch, the Dalwhinnie 15. You could say Aston Villa put the whin in Dalwhinnie. This scotch is dependable, reliable, consistent, and balanced. It was Everton 0, Aston Villa 1. Welcome inside the Villa Parlour, where it's just so lovely to celebrate and savor doing the double, well, frankly, over anybody, because it's so hard to do in the Premier League, and to not concede over those 2 games is quite remarkable as well. But especially in the Kazoo Derby, the most played fixture in English football history, this was the 208th meeting, and each team had 76 wins going into it. I find that remarkable, and now Villa have nudged their noses in front with win number 77 in a game that a lot of people were really worried about the caretaker manager bounce and big dunk and how the crowd was going to be whipped up with Steven Gerrard's return to Goodison as a manager. And that never materialized because Aston Villa was airtight and superior in that first 45 minutes. They were excellent, especially through the first half hour, fully deserved the lead, but it took until the very end to get it. So they stuck with it mentally, and really they did prey on the fragile state that the Toffees are in right now. And as critical as 3 points always are, obviously, to get a clean sheet in the week that Emi Martinez signs this long contract extension was so important, because defensively Villa were resolute, committed, and they just looked so solid in front of him. And that is immensely satisfying and probably confidence boosting, especially going into such a long break. I mean, could you imagine how miserable we would have all felt either losing that game or even drawing 0-0 and being winless now for this long stretch of time? Now you look ahead at the fixture list and you see 5-6 very promising games on the horizon. This was a critical 3 points, and Aston Villa distanced itself from what Everton is clearly now embroiled in, which is a 100% relegation battle, and you could see it and you could feel it, especially with the protests afterwards at Goodison. This is Brian Little's cell phone camera, the Villa legend with clearly legendary seats. He deserves the VIP treatment, Brian Little. As we present the Holy Trinity, the 3 big issues or moments that defined Everton 0, Aston Villa 1, starting with the key statistics. This game, I think, could be described as scrappy. It changed in the home side's favor with the introduction of Gordon, who probably should have started. He's a good player, but very limited on big chances and expected goals. The pass success ratio, you talk about scrappy. Yikes, that's a perfect illustration. And talk about defensive resoluteness. Villa faced 25 crosses and dealt with all of them while also blocking 8 shots directed towards target. Honorable mention for me was Douglas Luiz, who had a very tidy game in possession. In fact, his passing percentage was among the highest on the field at 83% in a pretty sloppy game otherwise. And in that first hour, he kept Villa ticking over and kept them on the front foot. And then in that final half hour, he had to change his role to more of a defensive position. And I rarely saw him out of position. It was a very good performance for him, a player who divides the Villa fan base. Keeping in mind, he's only 23 still. I still think there's a player in there. And with all this talk and speculation of an incoming defensive midfielder, well, the latest is Juventus's Rodrigo Bentancur, which would be a coup, by the way, for the age, the position, and also, the cost that's being rumored. That would be fantastic for Villa, and it might set Luiz free, because I think he's an 8. I think he's a more box-to-box attack-minded midfielder, and that could really release him more into that role, but it does mean that somebody pretty decent would be on Villa's bench if they pull that one off. Another honorable mention is the number 9 role, and I realize that Ollie Watkins and Danny Ings divide the supporters base as to who should be playing that role, but that role is so much more than just scoring. You have to be a good back-to-goal player, you have to have a good touch, you have to win aerial duels, you have to be a great presser, you have to chase down defenders, and you have to combine with your teammates and give them opportunities. And I thought Ollie Watkins did all of it. The only thing missing was the end product. The ball Mings plays over the top. He reels it down beautifully, then tries to hit it with his left foot. Can't beat Pickford. There was the one where he was offside and he still can't score with the header because Pickford makes a great save. He's offside anyway. It doesn't matter. But here's the thing. I believe Ollie Watkins in this system with these players around him is going to score 3 to 4 goals over the next 6 games. I'm calling it right now. And you know what? He has to, because if he doesn't, Ings takes his place. It's that simple. This is the best scenario for everybody. And I loved it when Danny Ings came on for Watkins. And you could read his lips. He said, good shift, good shift. This competition and having just one of them in that system is going to be good for the squad, and it is going to reap rewards. Number 3, General Gerrard and the deployment of his troops. It was really nice to wake up at 4 a.m. and see that starting 11, knowing that it was the most logical and best starting 11 that Aston Villa could put out. Yes, it was a bit of a shout putting Phil Coutinho on to start because he hasn't had a lot of time, but you get match fit by playing matches, and I thought little Phil had a very good start to the game, tailed off a little bit. We saw an end to the clunky Ings and Watkins experiment, one substituting for the other later in the game, which will keep them both competitive and both fresh, quite frankly. And then Chukwuemeka for Coutinho at 72 minutes, and the newly re-upped Courtney Haas coming in late to add some defensive solidity. It was all logical, it was all well timed, and that made me feel really good because it means that Steven Gerrard is seeing the same things that a lot of people have been seeing. The only thing missing was Leon Bailey in a game like that, just like the home game against Everton, with them pushed up chasing for goals. Yari Mina in Aston Villa's half for most of the second half. I think he could have really exploited some of those spaces. Number 2, brilliant Buendia. A lot of people ask me, why did you not mention Emi Buendia during the Manchester United show? Because he was clearly the best player. He was clearly the best player over 2 halves. Jacob Ramsey had a lot to say in getting Villa 2 goals back. However, we have not seen the best of Emi Buendia, and that's the exciting part because there's a lot more to come. Even in his early Norwich days, it took him a while to figure his teammates out and the system out, and it took them time to figure him out and how he could best supply that team. He is the fulcrum of this Aston Villa group. He needs players to play with that can combine with him and understand space and creating space, because he could split defenders. He can make those penetrating passes like the one he played for Jacob Ramsey prior to the equalizing goal against Manchester United. And that is just the beginning. We're now starting to see his presence. We're starting to see his physicality, his desire. And he ran almost 11 kilometers in that game on Saturday, and that was more than any other player on the park. Now, I'm not sure if there's just one catalyst in Buendia's bounce or if it's a number of things. Surely Steven Gerrard's confidence in this player will have helped, and the coach's support, but also just time. That preseason injury for him came at a terrible period. He lost all his momentum, his ability to figure his teammates out and figure the systems out. You know, the price tag from Norwich put him under a lot of scrutiny earlier in the season, and then came the turmoil and upheaval, different players, new manager, and that would have all been very difficult. But that is now firmly in the past. And history tells us that we ain't seen nothing yet from Emi Buendia, because this is a player that has shown over his career that he progresses and evolves over time with his teammates. Now imagine if Emi Buendia can carry on with his career progression like it was at Norwich, because when he first arrived at the club in the championship year, he still had good stats, games, goals, assists there. They get promoted to the Premier League and there's a drop-off probably because of the change in standard, but they kept their players together. And back in the championship, one of the most dominant teams in that division in a long time, look at the jump. And just imagine if Villa keeps these players together, I think he could crack on and double what he does this year. We've seen over these last 3 to 4 games better combinations, one-touch passing, a relationship developing with players, but also he's going for goal more. He's winning more duels and beating people and losing opponents. And he's just battling more. This guy now looks fully fit. And you take that goal, the game winner, and his call up to Argentina together at this time, it is going to do his confidence a world of good. But I am telling you, the best, and I mean the best, is yet to come. And the number one big issue or moment that defined Everton 0, Villa 1, quite obviously, the goal. It wasn't just how it was constructed, it was when it occurred, and a little bit of good fortune as well. Take a bow, Austin McPhee. Aston Villa now joint second in most goals scored from set pieces. And the Dean Buendia combination didn't manage to connect at United, but it did here. I think we have finally found our set piece delivery specialist from the corners anyway. And we should also note that this occurred moments after another set piece that was played along diagonal to Tyrone Mings, who headed it back across. Coutinho's header forces a save out of Pickford. That leads to the corner. And because it was so late in added time, Villa really could only score directly from the cross, which they did. And the rest, as they say, is history. And wouldn't you know it, Aston Villa get a touch of good fortune on that play. I don't know if Emi Buendia was trying to flick it on target or just help it onto the back post for somebody else, but he peels off his man beautifully just off the 6-yard box. Luca Dean doing Luca Dean things. What a ball. This guy could pick the wings off a mosquito with his delivery. It's that accurate. He's more deadly accurate than some Everton supporters are with projectiles, but he gets it in there. The solution to our corner kick problems. And wouldn't you know it, Jordan Pickford instinctively gets a little tiny touch. It's just a reflex moment off the tip of his glove, just a millimeter or two. And that little touch means that the ball evades Andros Townsend, who's standing at the back post, who probably would have gotten there without the touch. And games are often decided on those tiny margins. And at the time of that half, oh my goodness, now Big Dunk's got to rip up the script and start all over with his halftime team talk. The energy and the life is sucked out of Goodison Park as Aston Villa deliver a solid uppercut sucker punch to the button in the dying seconds of the round because they mentally stuck with it. And to wrap things up, we'll update the subcategories that we've been tallying throughout the season, and there were numerous changes in these categories, including a vital away win, 12 of the 33 points. The Austin McPhee set piece plus minus up to 2. The league says they've scored 9. I have to go back and see if I've missed one. Everton, I'm sorry, they're a bottom 6 side, and Villa have collected 10 out of 15 from bottom 6 teams. And Emi Martinez, in the week that he re-ups, collects his 6th clean sheet. Do you know what Villa could use right now, in addition to, of course, a healthy international break for all of those involved, but a little run of results? 3 or 4 wins in a row would really validate this project and all the work that's been done on the field and off of it over the last 3 or so months. And we're going to be getting some faces back after that international window. Touch some wood on my behalf. But also, between now and then, we could be seeing a couple of new faces through the door, which will make for a very interesting February and beyond. Until that time, which feels like ages away, be well, be healthy, and as always, up the mighty Villa.